Hello everyone and welcome to the GeekWave. This is the low budget show. It's the show so low it has no budget. And we're doing the Comic-Con episode. It's time. It's been a minute. We're kind of revamping the schedule here to do the GeekWave because DC is looking to switch back their comic books to Wednesday instead of Tuesday. I figured I would push this show back to Tuesday. And that way we can talk about the comic books throughout the week, even if Monday we have some stuff we still got to catch up on, like we did this week with Zatanna. So it's just an easier format for this show and this schedule. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, we're going to talk about Comic-Con. The biggest convention of the year just happened until 2 weeks from now when D23 occurs, which is crazy, which I think we'll talk about it a little bit when we talk about like Marvel specifically. I think they were very hyper aware that Disney would rather they talk about their stuff at the other panel, which is probably what's going to happen anyways. I'm not expecting a lot of reveals from D23, but I think we'll get a fair amount of stuff. We'll definitely do a video talking about all of that because I think there's going to be some stuff to talk about from Star Wars and Pixar and Disney themselves, even some stuff from the parks. I think the parks are having a big show right now, so that'll be interesting to see. But we have a little bit of news to talk about before San Diego come out. There's a couple of pieces in particular. Now, all the news points that I have in here are stuff I wanted to talk about and stuff that is just specifically from the time it was announced. So if I saw it at that point, it's in the list. So it's from the time I saw the news or just put it in the notes. So it might be out of order a little bit. We'll leave the big stuff till the end. And by big stuff, of course, we're talking about the Avengers stuff. First off, let's talk about this. We finally got confirmation that Spawn movie is going to happen. We knew it was in development for a while. McFarlane himself was talking about it forever. We have a title. The title is called King Spawn. We have our writers. We have our script. We are probably going to get into production fairly soon. I do imagine McFarlane's going to push that out and do something cool with it. So I'm expecting a Spawn movie by 2026, 2027. I think we're going to see a Spawn movie. Isn't that cool? It's so stupid that we're getting a Spawn movie, but I'm for it. You know, other other projects from Image were announced at San Diego or talked about briefly. So it is kind of cool that this is going to be the one to go. We got more casting for Criminal as well. I can't remember who it was. Emilia Clarke's going to be in Criminal. There were some other big names. It's just exciting. These projects are finally going somewhere, and that's kind of cool. So, a Spawn movie. We're getting a Spawn movie. Do you think that'll open the door to other early works of Image characters? I can't imagine Eric Larson's we gotta do Savage Dragon. But Channing Tatum is supposedly doing the Max, and we are getting Evangeline apparently. So that's enough. That's a lot. More than I'd ever imagine. And the Authority is coming to the DC universe. So we're kind of getting there. I wouldn't imagine a Grifter is far off. I don't know. It's kind of cool. Now here's something that's not cool. We learned the other day that Apple TV is probably going to have some cutbacks when it comes to their television division. So there was a huge thing that went out, and they were essentially just saying that the viewership they get in a month doesn't even equate to what Netflix does in a day or a week. So they're just well, we can't win this. We lost. We put a lot of money in here. Even though we're a $1 billion to $1 trillion company, we put a lot of money in here. We can't compete with the big guns. So we're not even going to try anymore. We're just going to cut back on our content, probably get the morning show season 4, and then is anything else actively in development that's a long-running show? For All Mankind, that's the other one that they have that's doing good. I'd imagine that's it. I can't see what else they're going to do. The content will still be coming, just slower and farther between stuff, which sucks, but that's the state of the industry. That is what Apple has deemed. And that's crazy, because if you were to ask me what the best streaming service is, I don't know if I'd say Apple, but it's not Netflix. Quit comparing yourself to Netflix. everyone you know has Netflix because they still think it's the only one out there. If Apple advertised better or Peacock advertised better, I don't know. I just started using Tubi, and Tubi's the best one so far because I can watch old movies on it, which is a shame that these other streaming services don't let you watch old movies. Crazy. I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's crazy that Apple thinks they're losing. You're not winning, but you're not losing. It's not like you're Paramount and you have to make a deal with Skydance. You are Apple. You don't need this. You're like Amazon. You could buy one of these if you wanted to. Maybe you should. I guess since we're talking about like the streaming services and studios in general, we could talk about this. This was really interesting to me. I find it very fascinating. So, former Netflix film head Scott Stuber is relaunching United Artists over at MGM, which is over at Amazon. So, United Artists, that was first founded in like the 1910s with Charlie Chaplin and Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford and all that. That was just like a place for artists to make the stuff they want to make. And they did that for a while. And I think it was like the 70s, or was it the 80s? It was around that time when Hollywood was changing that MGM bought United Artists. And now very recently, Amazon. Amazon has bought MGM. So I think that's kind of cool. Like that's one of those things in like the current state of Hollywood that makes me go, well, at least somebody cares about this stuff, where they're like, that was like a title I remember being prominent and people like responded to the label. So if Amazon already is doing stuff with MGM, and I think for the most part what Amazon has been doing with MGM has been successful. Like The Beekeeper was like a big hit for them. I know they released Challengers, and they had they have another big one recently. They're doing that Ryan Gosling one where he's like Project Hail Mary. Like they're doing that one. I think that Roadhouse. Roadhouse was the other one they did, and that was cool. So I think this is a great idea for them to really try this. Like it's cool that Amazon's like, well, if we're gonna do like a film division, we'll use MGM, and United Artists, I guess we'll make that too, so we can do different types of stories as well. And I'm like, that's kind of exciting. That's kind of cool, you know. I'm curious to see how that's gonna go. So I hope it works out for them. I like it. I think Scott Stuber is an interesting guy. Seems to want to focus on like, you know, the fun of Hollywood again, which feels like it's been a minute since that has happened. So I am for this. I think it's kind of a cool idea. I don't know if it's going to pay out in any way, but United Artists is a brand that I'm aware of. I watch a lot of old movies, as we just said. I've seen the United Artists logo show up. It's pretty cool. How long until we see RKO show up, do you think? Do you think someone's going to relaunch RKO? Maybe that's what Apple could do. Just be like, guess what, guys? We bought RKO. Did Universal buy RKO? Maybe they'll do it, but Universal doesn't need this shit. They're doing fine. Okay, here's something else. Speaking of Netflix, this was announced a little before Comic-Con, and then I think there was a panel at the convention about it. Minor Threats, the Jason Blum, or Jordan Blum? Which one does it? The guy that works with Patton Oswalt. Oh my goodness. Am I thinking of Blumhouse? I might be thinking of Blumhouse. Either way, the one that's not the guy that runs Blumhouse, he made a book with Patton Oswalt called Minor Threats. It just got a sequel. It just got a spin-off. Netflix is supposedly going to adapt it. Cool, that's great. Did you know that in the span of a couple weeks, both Umbrella Academy and The Sandman returned to Netflix? I bet you didn't know that, but here's some more slop for you to think that they're doing a good job. I know they're not. I can't imagine we're getting another season of The Sandman, and I know this is the final season for Umbrella Academy, so that sucks. Minor Threats is a fine book. It gets the job done. It's kind of more of like a fun satire on like the world of superheroes than stuff we've seen be successful at other companies. So I'm for that. I don't think Netflix will do a good job with it, and I don't think it's going to pan out into anything. But Minor Threats is coming to television, I suppose. So that's something. That is something. We'll have that existing for whatever you want. We also got this existing, and I guess we'll come to some other news. DC didn't have like a big showing at Comic-Con this year. Of course not. The time that I'm recording this, I think James Gunn has announced that they wrapped filming on Superman, so that's kind of exciting. Like, we're getting close to that actually happening, but they had a couple things that they showed. One of the major ones was the first trailer for Creature Commandos. Looks pretty cool. December is when that will launch, and I think it's fun. Like, the animation looks very solid. It looks like it's a holdover of another era of DC still, but they're going to find a way to work it in there. You got enough actors and voice actors to make this special and different, so I think it's going to be kind of a cool piece. I'm all for the Bride. I think that's a great design. I love every iteration of the Bride. This is going to be a cool interpretation of that. It just looks really fun, and I think that's exactly what they need right now, because they have, it's interesting, DC's actually got a couple animated projects coming out. Kite Man is currently out, and it sucks, and then Caped Crusader comes out, which I think we'll talk about next week, some capacity, probably in a video. Looks good. And My Adventures of Superman just ended. So yeah, DC Animation, I would say, regardless of how I feel about some of their projects, I think they're doing better than Marvel. Marvel has one good one, and that's X-Men 97, while DC is consistently pumping out some interesting stuff. Also from DC is The Penguin, which had a HALL H panel as well. Colin Farrell couldn't be there in person, but he's like, I'm here. It's great. I'm in this suit all the time. We made the show. I don't know if this is like new information, but they did say that the show takes place a couple weeks after the events of the Batman, and that the Penguin will be appearing in the Batman Part 2. And apparently we're supposed to call this like the Batman Epic Crime Saga or something. Whatever you want to call it. It's whatever. But we got a trailer, and it comes out in September, which is really cool. It's going to be competing right there with Agatha. So how crazy is it that in September of 2024, television shows for Agatha Harkness and Oswald Cobblepot will be premiering days apart? That's weird. Like, why is that happening? I don't understand that. But whatever. I think the show looks great. I'm a huge fan of like noir and crime dramas, and it feels like it's been a minute since we had like a good one, like the rise to power of like an actual evil guy. That's really cool. A lot of actors in this. They all look great. I am for this project, and it's really cool that we can talk about it after they just unveiled the new logo for DC Studios. So we actually got an official logo. You might remember at the start of every DC movie or TV show for, what era did that start? Was it with the Justice League movie, like the first one? Or was it after? Was it Batman v Superman? I can't remember, but they had like that stupid logo where all the characters would flash on screen, and you're like, these characters are supposedly getting a movie, but we know they're not. So we are now officially getting a new logo, and it is just like the classic 70s logo with the star, the stars and the bullets, and it looks great. It's just the classic logo with better colors, and it's more vibrant. And like I think it's for each new movie that comes out under this umbrella, we're going to have like a comic book version of the character, because they showed off the logo. It starts with like the classic Action Comics Superman like breaking out of the change, and then it like flips over and you see like the DC logo. I think if they're going to change that for every movie, so it's like in the Batman movie, you're going to get like classic Detective Comics Batman. He's getting like flying down. It's going to swap to a different style, or with Swamp Thing, it's going to like turn viney and stuff. Like, that's a really cool idea. Makes it about the comic books. It makes it about the comic books. And that is where I think DC won this year. So we don't talk a lot about comic books on GeekWave. I have other shows where I talk about comic books and stuff. But when it's a Comic-Con, comic is in the title, and it's a convention for comic books. That's what it started off as. You want the big two to have a big outing for their comic books. And Marvel announced a couple things. Nothing major. They're more like, well, a Psylocke book's coming out. That's kind of cool. There's a couple other things here and there. But DC had a really good showing. They announced their Absolute Comics, like, whatever, run a week before that. So we got like Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman. At the convention, they showed Absolute Flash and Absolute Green Lantern, which Jeff Lemire and Al Ewing are going to be writing those books respectively. And you're like, oh shit, Lemire's coming back to DC? That's really cool. Al Ewing's doing a DC book? That's really cool. Jason Aaron's doing the Superman one. Kelly Thompson is writing the Wonder Woman one. And Snyder, of course, Scott Snyder, I should say, is doing the one for Batman, which is really cool. We got some concept art for all of those. Very different, very a part of like their modern initiative. We also saw a New Gods book is coming out. Jeff Lemire is also writing a JSA book. And Mark Waid and Dan Mora are doing Justice League. So you're like, oh, we actually are bringing back the Justice League now. We can do it. It's not a toxic brand anymore. We thought we could push the Titans to being the premier team in DC, but nobody cared. And Tom Taylor's not doing that anymore. He's going to go write detective. Awesome. This is it. This is that's a great showing. Those are all stuff I want to read. So that's really cool. And then I think Chris Condon is doing Green Arrow next. We're getting some big swaps here. It's really cool. Lois Lane's going to become Superwoman in the Superman book. It's exciting. We also got a new trailer for Superman and Lois. The 4th and final season comes out in October. I will be covering it weekly. I have the entire show. I love that show. They're really hinting to the fact that Clark is dead, so they're going to do something with that. Great showing for DC. If you want my honest to God sense, okay? I think they had a better showing than Marvel. I think every single thing DC showed, trailers for their stuff, a new logo, and their comic book side of things, I think it's all better than the whole of what Marvel showed. That might be crazy to hear, but truthfully it is. Marvel had a couple of big panels at Hall H. They had a Deadpool and Wolverine panel where it's like, what if we showed you the movie and then we spoiled it by bringing everybody out on stage after? Why? What's the point of that? I don't know. Audiences are weird these days, and it's very annoying. But it doesn't matter, does it? What else we have to talk about? Okay, this was also announced. The Boys is getting another prequel, another show called Vought Rising, starring Aya Cash and Jensen Ackles. If you wanted to see more Soldier Boy and Stormfront, guess what? You lucky SOBs. It's happening. It's truly amazing to me that a show that went from being, we're making fun of the superhero world, has 3 spin-offs in the works, and is not letting this world die. I haven't watched the new season. I don't need to see it. There's no part of me where I'm just like, oh, finally, they're going to nail this. I don't care. I really, this universe, it's run its course with me. I'm glad it's got its audience and people still like it, but there's nothing that they could do that would bring me back in. And announcing a prequel with characters I don't care about, it means nothing to me. How did Soldier Boy and, Stormfront meet one time at a thing and doing stuff? I don't care. The origin of Vought, that cool company. Who cares? I don't get it. I don't get it. But what I do get is a potential sequel to a movie that came out this year called In a Violent Nature. So In a Violent Nature, if you haven't seen it, it's like a slow, methodical POV story about a slasher. It's more like ambiance and just very quiet storytelling. It's beautiful. A really interesting movie that is definitely not going to be for everybody. Well, it's getting a sequel, and I'm like, oh, cool. Are we going to explore more of this character? That's a fun idea. When we do sequels to slasher stuff, we do tend to sometimes explore deeper meaning with the slasher themselves to kind of make us root for them in some other ways. Mike Myers did that. Freddy Krueger did that. Jason Voorhees, of course, did that. So that's kind of exciting. I'm kind of impressed with that. I hope it works. I hope they could do it. Now, if NECA Toys could make some toys about it, now we're talking. By the way, on the topic of toys, I'm a huge action figure guy. I love collectibles. There was a great showing of stuff this year at SDCC for some toys that were revealed. I don't know what my favorite reveals would be, but we'll talk about a couple of them. I really like what NECA Toys showed off for their TMNT run. I love that new comic book April from Mirage. That's the April I wanted for so long. I really like the Leatherheads they showed. I'm a huge Leatherhead fan. Those look good. Ultimate Sesame Street is freaking sick. That line is going to be so cool if they can continue into some badass ways with it. That's really fun. I really like what we saw from Jada Toys. I'm all in on Jada Toys. I don't even play Street Fighter or Mega Man, but I'm getting all of that line. I love it so much. I really like the Proto Man they showed off for the Mega Man line. I really like the new Street Fighter figures they showed off. I can't wait for Cammy to come out. She's in the next wave. But they showed off Akuma and Hawk T and stuff. Or T-Hawk? Hawk 2, I don't know what I'm doing. Just some cool characters. Again, not a Street Fighter guy, so sorry I made a Hawk 2 reference this late in the game. Whatever. And Tony the Tiger, that looks sick. And then Scooby-Doo, Okay, I'm buying all of that line. That's cool. And with like the Marvel Legends stuff that I buy, I really liked that Punisher, like the War Journal Punisher. I don't care about the Bushwhacker. That Punisher, that's really interesting because I didn't think Marvel would ever put the Punisher logo on an action figure again. I didn't think they would do that. So it's cool to see that they're actually doing that. Makes me happy. And of course, Rom the Space Knight, that looks really cool too. And there's various things from other companies that just look good, but I'm really all in on Jada Toys right now. I think they had the best showing. That's really cool. All right, moving on. We talked about In a Violent Nature. We did all that stuff. A couple of things that kind of like debuted after the show. I'm sure they're from like panels that happened within Comic-Con. We got our new look at Interview with the Vampire Season 3, and this was just like a 2-minute clip of Lestat sitting in front of a camera because he's being interviewed for a documentary. And, oh man, I'm all in. I think there was like a rave or something where Sam Reed actually played music at Comic-Con. I think something like that happened to that effect. I know they released the single, like the single to go with like what this is. Oh, man. I loved this new season of Interview with a Vampire. I'm super pumped that we're getting another season and that we're going to like do something different. It's not going to just be like, well, we're just going to continue the story. No, we're going to try something new, give you an entirely new formula for the new season, basing it on Lestat and doing something a little bit different. That is super exciting. Super exciting. It's going to be so much fun. I loved this clip. He looks like a wreck. It's so different than how we've seen him in like the stories that Louis talked about him. There's just like something where like this guy is draining his body. He looks like he's strung up on cocaine and it's just a mess. I love it. It looks so cool. And it was just like a 2-minute clip and it worked. It got me excited. Same with this. We got a new look at Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3. In this clip, we see that the crew are going to turn themselves Vulcan so they can like go to Vulcan or something. And Spock's like, it is weird, but we're doing it anyways. And we give Pike the most insane hair you have ever seen in your life. Truly amazing. It is truly amazing what we do with that hair. That is his real hair, right? I'm always afraid to look it up because I don't want to be like hurt when I learn it's not his real hair, but let's just pretend it is his real hair because it's the most impressive thing you've ever seen in your life. There is nothing more impressive in this world than Anson Mount's hair on Strange New Worlds, and I don't think there ever will be. I can't think of a single thing that looks better than that hair. I really hope it's not fake. I've never looked it up. I'm not going to look it up. I'm just scared that the truth could ruin my life. So we're just going to leave it at that. The best hair in the game always goes to Anson Mount. It looks so good. So good. And that's kind of like all the other stuff we could talk about before we got to like the major panel, which is the one you're probably interested in hearing me talk about. It's crazy, you know, for somebody who doesn't cover the MCU movies when I do like my reviews and stuff. I do enjoy talking about the MCU, and I think it's very interesting where we are in terms of just that. I know the past couple of years have been rough for them, apparently. COVID and the writers and actor strikes, and, you know, nobody wanted to see Kang continued, and the Marvels was like their first actual bomb where you're like this disappointed immensely. Truthfully, I'm fine with everything they've done. There's nothing where I'm like, oh, this is terrible or bad. I don't like Ant-Man. I think Quantumania was a very bad movie. And the very specific thing that Deadpool and Wolverine is doing is not catered to me. You know, when you're going to hand me a plate of everything I've wanted to see, it's not going to look like Deadpool and Wolverine. If you wanted to hand me a plate of an MCU thing where it's like, this is everything you want to eat, gobble, 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 we would see Finn Jones and Mike Coulter lead a TV show called Heroes for Hire, and they'd have their comic-accurate suits. That's how you would win me over and have me, like, play into the hand where I'm a Disney shill. That's how you do it, not anything else that we've seen at all at this point. But I do like the MCU. I personally don't think they're, like, desperate. I think from, like, a standpoint of we have to get back to, like, a pre-COVID era, they are desperate. But you've also never let anything grow. And maybe this isn't the place to have this conversation, but we're going to have it anyways. You have introduced a lot of new characters. Shang-Chi, the Eternals, Yelena and Kate Bishop and Miss Marvel and Moon Knight and She-Hulk. And I guess to some extent like Agatha and a lot of these other characters, U.S. Agent and stuff. You haven't let them breathe. You haven't given people a second to live with them. Part of that is just the nature of streaming television, that you can never truly like have something matter. The other part is you really just are afraid to not have the highest grossing film of all time. And that's like a bad thing. One of the things that makes comic books work is that you can see multiple iterations of a character over a huge lifespan, and all of them will have their audience. Like, it's crazy how we do things like that. And I think if you were to apply that to the films, you could have something unique happen, or it could feel a little more special, as opposed to we are scared of our own failure, so where did that lead you? Back to me. A lot of stuff I don't understand in the current state of Marvel. A lot of stuff I do like. And I think for general audiences, there's just nothing to guide you. And that I think is apparently something people need for these movies. But if you ask me, or if you ask any comic book fan, some of the best things you see of these characters are just like solo series that don't go anywhere. What's the best book from Hawkeye? Well, you could say it's the 80s 4-issue miniseries that didn't connect to anything. It could be the Fraction story. It could be Hawkeye Blind Spot. It doesn't have to connect to Secret Wars or whatever. But I guess the MCU has conditioned audiences to think that all of this has to matter, when comic book fans know we can cherry pick what we like and just read the stories we care about, which might be the detriment between movie audiences and comic book audiences. And I don't think you're ever going to please either of them. If you fan service to try to get moviegoers to read comic books, it sucks. And people just want to see like their pretty panels up on a big screen, and it can be nothing, So I don't know. What are we talking about? This has nothing to do with their panel. I just don't think Marvel's as creatively bankrupt as they think. I just think they're afraid to have a steady $500 million worldwide gross for a movie. But there should be nothing wrong with that. I don't know. It's weird. I don't love it. That upsets me. So Deadpool and Wolverine did come out. It's going to break box office records. Who cares? Not a movie I like, not a movie that I enjoy. I don't need to talk about it. It's been talked about to death. I'm not a fan of Ryan Reynolds. I don't like his humor. I'm not a fan of Sean Levy. I don't like his directing style. And I think this movie wants to pose itself as like a love letter to a bygone era of Marvel movies, but it actually doesn't, because none of the characters it's using serve any purpose, as opposed to remember this, and there's no real plot beats to any of it. It's really lame, if you ask me, and I think we should expect more. But we shouldn't, because these are apparently just slop to pump out. And slop, look, I know it's not slop, whatever. I hate talking about this stuff. It's why I don't want to talk about Star Wars or Marvel stuff. It's exhausting, and I don't have anything positive to say, but I also don't have anything critical to say. It's just like none of this is anything, It's just annoying. I don't read every Marvel comic book that comes out. Why should you be mad when audiences don't see every Marvel movie that comes out? It's crazy. I don't get it. Anyways, they had a big panel. It's their big return to Hall H. They talked about a couple of things. Nothing major, because they do have D23 coming up in a couple of weeks. And that's where Disney's going to want them to really talk about shit. But because it's Hall H, you have to end things on a big cliffhanger and get people pumped for the next era of Marvel. So they talked about Captain America: Brave New World, a movie that went through infinite reshoots, has a very problematic character, and has a very problematic scene in its trailer. A movie that's really in a bad place. There's a lot working against this one. The cast came out. Harrison Ford smoked a huge blunt before he stepped out and pretended he was the Hulk. He got to say adamantium or whatever. Adamantium's going to be introduced because of the Celestial that's in the thing. You get it. This is going to be a very complicated movie. I don't think there's going to be much to it opposed to we want to go back to like the classic Winter Soldier feel. You really don't have that. I know people are always like, it was like an espionage, like a spy thriller from the 70s. I'm like, no, it really wasn't. It was for like a second, where it's like government is bad? Question mark. But that's really it. And I don't think a movie that has the Red Hulk or the Leader is going to be like an espionage thing like the Winter Soldier. I don't think that's the case. But either way, there you go. Oh, Giancarlo Esposito is playing Sidewinder of the Serpent Society. Couldn't tell. He's not dressed up like a weird snake. So it's nothing. Means nothing to me. Looks like nothing. I couldn't care less. I really couldn't. Thunderbolts, we had the cast come out. They're like, it's a fun movie. There was a trailer that they showed where it's like, we're all being set up for this mission. What's the mission? I don't know, fight a guy probably. We'll probably have to fight the Sentry later. Again, this is the one you should have done right after the TV shows, because 2025 is not the time you want to release the sequel to U.S. Agent and Bucky Barnes and Red Guardian when nobody is thinking about those characters. Should have pumped this one out faster. You really should have. If you're going to do this stupid thing, if you're going to call this movie Thunderbolts, which is stupid, it's not Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts is not Suicide Squad. It's not this thing. I hate it. It annoys me. None of you know how much this annoys me, but it annoys me. This movie annoys me more than any of them, because I'm like, this is not what you do with any of this. Are you just afraid to have fun? Do you not? Whatever. Look, Florence Pugh, people like her. She'll lead a movie. I would expect this one to do the worst of the 3 that come out that year, which is kind of crazy to think about because I don't know how good a Captain America movie would do without Chris Evans. I think we're about to see if people actually go to a movie for the character's name or for the actor. I think nerds will go for the name, but I think normal people go because they think Chris Evans is a good actor. And to that I say, he might be, but he's never really done anything that shows it. We'll see. We had Fantastic Four get mentioned. The cast came out. They showed like some test footage or whatever, because it's actually starting to film very soon. And okay, looks fine. I don't know. I think it gets the job done. It's set in like a 60s retro future, whatever. We had like a Galactus in the Fantastic Car. It was fine. Like, we've had so many middling attempts at the Fantastic Four that actually trying to do a good one might actually work. But is it going to work? I mean, you got the look right. I really like the tension that we see between Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby. And I think the entire cast looks like they're friendly and having fun together. There's some cool bits in like the weird footage we saw. But none of that really invokes like, oh, the theme of this movie. Which, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be like Coming of Galactus or whatever. If it was just like a vibes movie, that would be pretty cool. But I'm scared it's going to jump into like, then we have to go through an incursion and like our reality is going to mix with the 616 universe. And it's just like, shut up for a minute. Shut up for a minute. I don't know. I hope this one's good. I do like the Fantastic Four. Not convinced yet, though. None of this has convinced me. And I don't have a horse in this race, so it's not like it's going to ruin my life either way. But I don't know. It would be kind of cool if I could wake up one day and see like a good interpretation of the Thunderbolts or Fantastic Four in a movie. That'd be kind of cool. The way we talk about all this stuff, and I don't want to make the comparisons again, but next year in July, Fantastic Four and Superman are both going to premiere. Now, one of those movies just wrapped up filming. The other one has yet to start. That could tell you something. It really doesn't matter. The shoots are probably very different. I think just like the way Gunn is letting you see some behind the scenes footage for that movie really shows me that they're not afraid to let you see what's happening. And I think that's a really cool and nice thing to see. Where Marvel's afraid that if you see one thing, it's going to be bad, but then they're just going to let things run wild all over the internet. Like Channing Tatum can make a comment on Instagram. Wesley Snipes can make a comment on Instagram. It's weird. I just appreciate James Gunn being like, yeah, like if you see footage outside, that's because we want you to see it. Like, relax. I respect that. I think it's a really unique thing to do. I don't know. Like, out of all these things we were talking about, and we talked about like a lot of comic book movies, the ones I'm excited about are The Max and Spawn and Superman. Things I know that are happening that could just be different. And that's nothing against Marvel. I think it's just more like they have created a specific brand that works for all audiences, and when they defer from that, people get scared and they don't want to see Eternals or Shang-Chi or something. I don't know. But Fantastic Four, July 2025, if we're all still alive by then, we'll go talk about it maybe. I hate to say it, but I'm definitely going to talk about the Superman movie. I don't know if I'll talk about these other ones. Okay, you'd think that'd be the end of the panel, but before they go, Kevin Feige brings out two guys you probably know already, Joe and Anthony Russo. Turns out they made a huge sum of money to direct the next two Avengers films, and we know the sixth one in 2027 is going to be called Secret Wars. We know that. That's still happening. But the fifth Avengers movie, that used to be called the Kang Dynasty, but we can't call it that anymore because Kang assaulted people. We're changing the title. It's now going to be called Doomsday. So it's going to be about Doctor Doom. And I'm like, okay. Wouldn't it be cool? This might just be like common, I guess. Wouldn't it be cool if like one of these movies was like named after the superhero? Like Avengers, Thor, King of Asgard or something. I don't know. What am I doing? It doesn't matter. They always have to be about the villain. Who cares? But Doctor Doom, Doomsday, who's going to be the big bad? Well, they have an actor already. You might be surprised to find this out. A movie that comes out in 2 years. Less than 2 years, actually, because it's May of 2026. Well, it has an actor. That actor you might be familiar with. His name is Robert Downey Jr., and the internet just went, really? Him? You know, like the classic Arrested Development bit? Really? Her? Interesting choice. I was flabbergasted when I read it. I'm like, are we really doing this? This really feels like two things. It feels like we need to hype up Hall H. We can't just end with saying like, and now we're going to go film the Fantastic Four. First Steps, by the way. It's called First Steps. Terrible title. Now we got to like actually get people excited about something. So we'll have Robert Downey Jr. wear a green suit and take off an Doctor Doom mask and then put on new sunglasses. And you're like, fine, whatever. It also feels like, well, they want to win. And what do general audiences love? It's a Marvel movie with Robert Downey Jr. They don't want to see him outside of this. Nobody went to Doolittle, right? Nobody saw Doolittle. So I guess the only place where people want to see him is in a Marvel movie. So he's coming back. Now, the time that I'm recording this, there is speculation, I don't know if it's confirmed, that these three people that are returning to the Marvel playbox, right? Joe and Anthony Russo and Robert Downey Jr. Now, it is rumored, it might actually be confirmed for the Russos, that the two of them are getting an $80 million deal to direct these next two movies, right? It's a fucking lot of money. Also says Robert Downey Jr. gonna get more money than that. So I think one of the things people said was $50 million for each movie. That's insane to me. I really hate that. Those are like Daniel Craig coming back to James Bond numbers, where you're like, why would you ever need that much money to do this thing? It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me they're worried about having a bad year in 2023, but they're going to dump like $300 million on these guys to make these movies that they know are going to do good. Like, I don't know. And McFeely, I think, is coming back to write the script for Doomsday. They dropped Michael Waldron or Jeff Loveness, whoever was doing it. I wouldn't say it reeks of really wanting to win back audiences. But the fact that you got the screenwriters, the director, and the actor really makes me think, like, we have to backpedal. We're not doing so hot. We want to win, and this is the only way we know how. And that sucks. Because if you are, like, Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, Evan Moss-Bachrach, or anybody in Thunderbolts, David Harbour, or anybody that's like, finally, we're doing like the big movie here. You know, Simu Liu, Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, like any of them, Tatiana Maslany, Oscar Isaac, these people that are rumored to be in the next Avengers movie. Anthony Mackie, Brie Larson, Benedict Cumberbatch, Tom Holland. Any of these people now get the chance to lead an Avengers movie, to actually lead it. The big six aren't there. You can lead it. The only thing that people are going to look at or pay attention to is the voice coming from that mask. That's all they're going to think about. That would really bother me. Like, if I guess this is, I mean, I don't watch a lot of wrestling, but I imagine this is kind of like the Cody Rhodes, the Rock situation, where we're like doing this big thing with Cody Rhodes, then suddenly Dwayne Johnson's like, I need to win with the public's eye. I am back to WWE. And just steamroll stuff for a minute. And you're like, that's what this feels like to me. Where suddenly we could have this like next generation actually be allowed to take over. We have to defer back to this one, even if it is the villain. And look, we don't know any story beats. It's probably a variant of Tony Stark who becomes Iron Man. A thing that has not really happened in the comic books. But whatever, nerds will say random shit to make you feel a certain way. The grifters will grift. It doesn't matter. It would really bother me if I was Benedict Cumberbatch and it's like, okay, sir, you're about to lead the next Avengers movie. People have hailed you as the next Iron Man for this cinematic universe. You have a good trilogy on your back almost. Oh, wait, RDJ is going to be the villain, so he's going to steal the scene from you at any turn. Ugh, that feels bad to me. And I don't think there's any, like, you know, the reason RDJ is coming back is not because he, you know, has some artistic vision he needs to comp. It's because of the money, and it's because he already won the Oscar, so who gives a shit? You showed us you can all act, and you won the award for it. Go get your payday. Like, I'm not mad about that. I would just be annoyed, where it's like, suddenly we're going to detract everything we're building, so you focus on this thing. With the directors who are only good at playing in this sandbox. So, I don't know. It's very annoying, and I don't really care for it. But these movies aren't made for me. They're made for people who don't look at this shit. They're made for people who are going to see this news and not have been speculating about it forever. I will say this. If it turns out that RDJ is playing Victor Von Doom, I think he is going to... I don't like that. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. I think he is going to be like a Tony Stark variant or whatever. And then if we wanted, Chris Evans could be like a Hydra Cap, or, you know, Thor could become like the Black Winter or something, and everyone can be like an evil version of themselves. Mark Ruffalo could do Maestro, and they could be like a multiversal evil Avengers that do a thing. But if he is Victor Von Doom, which I don't think is the case, doesn't that suck that like one of the most seminal arcs for Victor Von Doom in Secret Wars is going to go to a guy that already had its cathartic ending in the MCU? That just sounds really stupid. Like, I don't have an actor in mind for Victor Von Doom. People have said Cillian Murphy, Nikolai Coster-Waldau, Josh Hartnett. I said Timothy Olyphant should do it one time because I'm like, that guy, he seems like a pretty boy who's insecure. But a Romani actor would be better than all of those things I just said, which maybe should be the case. I don't know. I just, it kind of sucks. I wish we had somebody who's more like a contemporary to Pedro Pascal to play off of. But whatever. It would be cool if somebody showed up later and was the real Victor Von Doom, but I don't know how any of this is going to go. I don't know. It means nothing to me. At the end of the day, that movie's going to come out in 2026. I'm going to be 28? 29? 28. And if the worst thing that ever happens to me is that a bad Avengers movie comes out, that's the case. I don't know. Yeah, I never liked Endgame to begin with, and you can't get me excited for Doomsday. Sorry. How would you get me excited for Doomsday? Well, you retitle it to Heroes for Hire, and it's 10 episodes of Mike Colter and Finn Jones in classic costumes for Power Man and Iron Fist. That's how you'd get me excited for Doomsday. That's the only thing I want from Marvel. I love Moon Knight so much. I don't think the season 2 is going to be good. That's the only thing Marvel could do where I'm like, you won. You won me over if you did that. If Finn Jones got to wear the big collar shirt with the exposed chest and the proper headgear, you'd win me over. But I don't know if I'll ever get that in my lifetime, so there's nothing they could do. So that's going to do it for the Comic-Con stuff. Was there anything you liked from this? Who cares? Maybe there was. Is there anything I missed that I should have talked about? Probably, but, what are we doing? We all have so much time in our lives. Why waste it on this shit, I mean, I do. My livelihood is kind of built on talking about this shit. Oh, I don't know. I kind of want to talk about Doctor Doom as a character, but I don't think I need to. There's people who are going to grift better than me that could talk about that shit. I will say this. I think he's one of the most important characters that Jack Kirby and Stan Lee created, and there is nothing about the energy that RDJ exudes that leads me to think that. Now, Louis Strauss is kind of close with, the pettiness, but he's so small, and Doom's big? I don't know. Anyways, thank you all for watching this review. It's not a review. What the hell? Oh, I'm losing my mind here. Just thinking about Louis Strauss and how good Oppenheimer was. Thank you all for watching this video and listening to this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.